Welcome back to Haunted Horizons. This is Amy Davis.
And this is Jack Devin.
And today we're actually still talking about, because we were talking about it earlier, of mysticism and different things that connect. Things from the past and even things that are right here in this room, including some of the hats, or the feathers that is in my hat that I carry with me wherever I go. And the connections therein. And we actually found these in the parking lot when we were doing an investigation at the Smith Flat House down the street from where we're actually at right now here at Foothill 7. And different things, depending on the culture, we'll go into that here in a little bit, have different connections. And as far as I understand it to be, is that the crow feathers that I have, or the raven? Crow?
It was the one feather that I found and gave to you was the raven feather.
Yeah, so it's this one. This one I found from a bird that had, let's say, a not so good incident. I'm gonna leave it there. I'm gonna let the mystery abound. It didn't eat him anymore, we'll say that. But that sounded weird. This one is the crow feather, and it's synonymous with protection, I believe. And it's something along the lines of, from what I understand, is that if a crow is flying with you, then it means that good fortune and the badness of energy or what have you is flying away. But if it's flying towards you, it means that bad luck or bad things are coming. So it just means to be a little more discerning and conscious of what's coming up. So
what's this particular folklore come from? Do you know?
That comes from Yaqui and Cree traditions. So some of the natives. So that's something that I learned, and I don't really give it much substance. I will notice it, but it kind of goes along the lines of a black cat. And I read this at some point, just doing my thing, and it's to say that if a black cat crosses your path, it means bad luck. It's a bad omen. But is the cat crossing your path, or are you crossing the cat's path? So I guess it comes down to perspective.
Well, I mean, as a witch who loves black cats, I always say, is the bad luck because you didn't heed the warning of the black cat? Was that black cat crossing your path to warn you off what was further down that path? Maybe you see the black cat and you should be turning around and going the other way. Just something to think about.
So is to say, like, to stop going or doing whatever it is that you're going to do?
Possibly. But black cats and crows, like you said, are very symbolic in a lot of cultures. There's a lot of folklore. There's a lot of superstitions. Some people think crows and ravens are bad omens.
Or messengers. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they're seen as being something to really look out for in regards to something positive.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different folklore and a lot of different messages that we receive on a regular basis in terms of it. But in my practice, when a raven leaves a feather for you, it is for protection magic. And so when I found those ravens at the Smith Flat House, I found the ravens, found the two feathers from the ravens at the Smith Flat House, I was like, oh, this is Jack and I. I took that as symbology. I handed one to you. I kept one. And I think that they are for protection. Now, it goes back to what is folklore, what is mysticism, what is spirituality. A lot of folklore has been handed down since the beginning of time, and we are constantly reaching back into that to pull what has worked for, or what people believe has worked for them, and using that to give us little hints about where to go with investigating. So it's a combination of old school mysticism from around the world in both Eastern and Western mysticism, as well as spirituality from different religions and different ideologies, that we pull these kind of ideas. And this is the basis of paranormal investigating it's from the heart of civilization.
Yeah, it's storytelling, start to finish. It's storytelling, and trying to trust people, and not even so much trust, but it's to say that, depending on what you believe, I mean, we're tribal. So when it's said that if somebody doesn't like you, that's like a primal thing, because it means that you're now cast out of that. You're now out of the tribe. So it means that you have less of a likelihood of surviving. You're now in the dark, and there's other things like that. And so I just find storytelling to be so important, because that's what we did, is sit around the campfire telling stories, sharing things that are mysterious. And until people really started to, and it's debatable if people lived in a 20-mile radius for however long, there's stories and even archaeological digs that they've actually found people over in France buried with like jewelry over from China. And so you have all of these mixings of traditions and beliefs and perceptions. And so now here in the modern day, it's a really interesting sort of thing. You got to get to pick and choose, whereas before, for so long, you only knew what you knew. Your tribe only knew what you knew. And if somebody says, hey, I saw this or that, and they were believable, and they're one to go out there and do these wild things and come back alive, and some of the stuff actually ended up being true, that is really neat. It really is. Storytelling and imagination more than anything, too.
Well, one story that's fairly universal around the world is a sleep paralysis situation that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Where somebody is in this state of paralysis when they're sleeping. We have this term sleep paralysis from modern psychology and sleep studies. But it has become universally documented around the world in different cultures, many different cultures from all continents, about this old woman witch type figure. And a lot of cultures refer to her as the hag. Other cultures have different names for her. The Baba Yaga could be one, and I know you've got a story about that.
Yeah.
But this has been a paranormal, or what we call a paranormal occurrence, universally throughout multiple cultures. And there's art, drawings. Sorry, my brain is like the hag, and it's focusing in on this scary woman. There has been drawings of her that they found in archaeological digs all over the world, with these experiences of somebody waking up and they see this old woman in the corner of a room sitting there staring at them, and they can't move. And so there's all kinds of folklore around that. So
is she like slimy? Is she what does
she tends to be wrinkly. She tends to be in rough-hewn, grungy, like some cultures say she's wearing like a flour sack or something like that. She's supposed to have old stringy hair, not many teeth. Some people say she talks to them. It's a phenomenon that it happens. It occurs on a regular basis, even to this day.
Whether this is just me hearing about this.
Yeah.
This makes me think of like an old god. And it's not to say that I put a whole lot of like substance into, their each culture. And it's not to say I do or don't believe it, because it's just I have my own beliefs. But it does make me think of some of these older stories and traditions, some of which have been lost. And it makes me think of just something that just still lingers. And that's really interesting if it's kind of like not kind of like anything. I was going to reference it to the Yeti, which isn't the same thing at all. But
that's a cryptid,
No, it definitely
Arctic Bigfoot.
Yeah,
that's what I always think of the Yeti, Arctic Bigfoot.
But that's so neat that it spans around everywhere. That it's basically that. And the Baba Yaga basically means old hag, and the story being is that they would tell their children, come back at night. It's like, when you're a kid, I mean, at least when I was, it's like, oh, come back, before it gets dark.
Baba Yaga's gonna get you.
Seriously, yeah. Because, they would disappear, and, the kids wouldn't come back. And so there's a story that they would tell the kids along the lines of, don't go wandering out too far, because if you do, you'll come across a hut. and if you go inside of this, which goes into some other fables that everybody knows, and
Wait, is the Baba Yaga the basis for the Brothers Grimm, Hansel and Gretel?
I would like to say so. I mean, the Baba Yaga dates back to, I don't know, the 16th century, like maybe even 13th, a long time ago.
Yeah.
But along the lines of, and I mean, maybe someone that's watching this has actually seen the Baba Yaga, but if you see a hut, you say something along the lines of, what is it? Hut, turn your back to the forest and your front to me. Oh, that felt like a ritual, just saying that. Ooh, that made my skin crawl right now. Just seriously, oh wow, that made me feel icky. I feel icky saying that. Oh man,
That reminds me of that old childhood urban legend, Bloody Mary. Yeah.
Man.
Wow.
That's disgusting. Yeah. No, but it's really neat. And earlier off camera, Amy and I were actually talking about mirrors and how there's certain beliefs and there's actually substance backing this. I want to hear Amy's insight on this, but there's a story I'm going to go into here in a little bit about one down the street from a really old mirror from France.
Oh.
And so the idea being, if I remember correctly from us talking earlier, is that they will cover the mirrors with what, burlap, or is there a certain like cloth they cover to like prevent?
Well, it depends on the
like-
culture. But universally around the world, I was just actually studying up on this because I've been researching mirror lore, especially since we went to the Smith Flat House.
Oh yeah.
Because upstairs in the Smith and the green room also had mirrors facing each other.
Well, it didn't have like 8 mirrors facing each other. The green room has 2. But they're bigger, so I mean...
Yeah, they are huge mirrors at the green room.
Would you have one giant portal or like 4 mini portals?
I'm sure the idea of a potential spiritual portal isn't really the best thing for keeping your house neutral of spiritual energy.
Yeah.
So the concept is, in a lot of cultures, they believe that 2 mirrors facing each other creates a portal. Also, a lot of cultures believe a mirror hanging on an outside wall, like it's looking in, it's inside the house or the building, but it's on a wall that faces the outside. They believe that creates a portal.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or like a doorway. Like it's like a...
Yeah, it's a like threshold. Yeah. You can call it a doorway or a portal or a crossroads. All these things kind of mean the same thing. It's an area where you can let something not from our realm in. Mm-hmm. I want to say that really spooky. Not from our realm.
There is substance to it, though, and there's reports of seeing apparitions moving through. There's even accounts of people sleeping with a mirror over their headboard and being slapped or tickled or touched or any number of different things.
Yeah.
I mean, down in Coloma, it's at the LaGrange right now, but it's this giant mirror. It's darn near the size of a wall. And it actually came from France in the 1700s. And so by the time it got here to the Sierra Nevada house, which burned down, it was already 130 years old, 140 years old. And there's accounts of even back then when they first built it of just some eerie things, nothing really confirmed. But then in more modern times leading up to the house, the restaurant that is now, or what was, burned down, they would see figures, multiple figures moving. And I mean, it's just, it's really neat. And you know what's neat about that too, to finish that up, is that when it burned down, this giant mirror, huge mirror that had to again come in through boat and stuff, when it burned down, it was on the first floor. The whole thing burned down on top of it, and what survived?
The mirror?
The mirror.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
In Folsom, there's the Folsom Hotel.
Yeah.
That one, it actually killed the architect, the one that actually built the mirror. I forget his name. He was an Englishman or a Frenchman. And this was in the 1800s, and he built the mirrors custom for the Folsom Hotel. And he had so much pride in his work that he literally went on the boat from England all the way here to Folsom. It took him like 10 months, start to finish.
That's some serious dedication.
He's putting the mirror in these two big mirrors, mind you. He's putting them in. Everyone leaves. He's like, no, I got it. It's the final touches. He's by himself. There's an accident. He bleeds out. They find him in the morning, full rigor mortis. He still haunts that Folsom Hotel.
Is the mirror that supposedly killed him still there?
It was still there. I was so amazed by that story. I didn't even think of asking about the mirrors. But
that's incredible.
So whether you're stuck in the mirror, you'll die from the mirror, the portals.
Well,
real neat.
And that's one of something that you'll find in cultures all over the world is the covering of the mirrors when somebody is either on the verge of passing or has passed, because a lot of cultures believe that a spirit can get trapped in the mirror. At the National Hotel in Jackson, they have a giant mirror downstairs, and I can't remember if it was referred to as the murder mirror or the death mirror, but they believe a lot of the spiritual activity that happens, or the paranormal activity that happens at the National Hotel in Jackson, California, is a lot of it based off of this mirror that supposedly somebody died in front of. It's a fantastic floor-to-ceiling 9-foot mirror. It's huge. Gorgeous, intricate detail, also from the 1800s. Came over during the Wild West, and I think somebody was shot in front of it or something. There was a lot of lore around it, and not a lot of historical evidence backing it up. It makes a great story.
Do you think that mirrors made back then and mirrors made now, because they used mercury and other toxic materials,
use silver, like
and
actual silver. Yeah.
And do you think that there is more potency with those older mirrors compared to modern day mirrors?
So I think there's some credibility to having those kind of minerals in the backing of the mirror to create the reflective surface, as potentially being able to conduct or affect spiritual activity.
Yeah, retain the energy.
Yeah.
And then that even, to me, goes into the idea of you break a mirror and you have bad luck for 7 years. You could be disrupting some sort of realm in its own right.
Well, I don't know if I go that far.
Well,
possibly. But the idea about the older mirrors is, let's take this crystal, for example. So, scientists have actually found that crystals and certain minerals do have a energetic resonance. They have slight vibrations.
Is that crystal quartz?
Yeah, that's quartz.
It's known as the king of crystals, by the way. It's such it's the best amplifier.
It is a good amplifier, and we use minerals and crystals in a lot of electronics to help boost signals. We use gold and silver in cell phones, so there is some support to the idea that something like silver, something like mercury could actually be affecting those mirrors and resonating, creating spiritual activity, harnessing spiritual activity. It is a possibility. We still, the majority of what we do in the paranormal, actually everything we do in the paranormal, is theory and hypothesis. We have no solid, hard facts. That's why we're trying to collect data. That's why we're doing research. That's why we look to lore. That's why we look to old stories to see what people in the past have believed. And we can use that kind of stuff to bring it forward to figure out if some of this actually affects, paranormal activity, if it stimulates it, if it taps it down, all of this kind of thing.
I noticed that water is a really good one when it comes to paranormal activity. Is that not so much if it's stormy and it's rainy and it's dark and all these things that make it extra, interesting, a little spicy or wet. Anyway, Anyways,
Oh my goodness.
but it does have it because it reminds me of the green room in the mirrors, and underneath there's the water,
water
from
runs.
the creek, and so that creates its own natural static charge. And or kinetic energy, that is.
Exactly.
And so with that said, when there's water, it actually dampens and even lowers the vibration, at least in that immediate area, because it's not like the whole world has rain. So it dampens that, and then there's just, to me,
Well, from what I've discovered in research is that water doesn't dampen energy. It's more of a conductor.
Right. That's
when
what
water
I mean.
is flowing, when we're getting rain out of the sky, that seems to, and this is where we, collect data, is it seems to actually amplify things. So spiritual lore from multiple societies have all noticed that mirrors, dark water is a thing. Like dark water they think that dark water can, generate spiritual activity. There's all these things. And when it comes down to it, we have all this information that's come to us through stories over the years.
And other people's experiences, our own and others. Yeah.
Exactly. And so then we try to figure out, why is it possible? So the scientific ideology behind why water might affect things is water creates energy. Energy seems to have an effect on the paranormal. Mm-hmm. And, but it comes from all this folklore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just through oral tradition and topic and interest. And, with that said, though, some people, whether or not you agree with how they did it, but the Brothers Grimm back in, this was in the beginning of the 1800s. And in 1812, they officially decided, hey, let's do this. And what that meant is that they decided and they were just really inquisitive. They loved hearing stories. They loved to learn, just like us, which I think makes us really successful in what we do because we like to learn. And they decided to go to all these different elders. Didn't matter who, young, old, didn't matter. They learned all these stories and compiled them. And they said, okay, so we like Rapunzel, Little Red Riding Hood, Cinderella, Rumpelstiltskin, all these classics that are
everything we grew up on.
Yeah, exactly. And they said, okay, well, we talked to, let's say, 20 people in, let's say, 10 different places or whatever. Then they said, okay, so there's these different little variations. They're all basically the same. Some of them are drastically different, but what are the key takeaways? And what happened is what's really neat is they said, hey, tell me a story and I'll give you 50 cents. And so they started doing this, and people were so mad that they're like, you can't make a profit off of these stories. And they said, well, we're documenting it, but we just so happen to be money on it too. And I just find it so fascinating that these stories, however innocent they may seem now, some of them were drastically different. I mean, I didn't know this up until a couple of years ago, but Little Red Riding Hood, the lumberjack comes along, literally cuts the wolf open and pulls Granny out.
Oh yeah.
I mean, just
the Brothers Grimm stories are pretty brutal.
But the thing about that, though, is that those stories had to signify that when you hear that story, whether you're a kid or otherwise, to stick in there, to not be around the wildlife, to not go looking for the Baba Yaga, to mind your manners, or else what was it you were telling me? The cat would come and eat the children or take the children, or
yeah, that's in
that
Icelandic Yule Cat. Yeah, it's like the Icelandic equivalent of Krampus. It was to keep children in, to keep children being good. Naughty children would get eat, that sort of thing.
So it was like a small cat beating children up?
No, it's a gigantic cat. I think it's also has something to do with clothing. Like you had to get new clothes at Christmas,
right,
to like ward off the cat. Yeah, it's an interesting folklore story.
Interesting thing real quick is if you were to get coal at being bad, that's not so much of a bad thing because you can use the coal for heat. So, I mean, there's at least that.
That's fair. That's fair. Getting coal in your stocking is much better than getting eaten by a giant cat.
I think that is something to remember.
Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you enjoy our stories that we're sharing with you about the paranormal and wolves being cut open by the huntsman from the Brothers Grimm and Yule Cat. And we love having you with us on our journey. If you like what we do, please follow us. We're on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and we are Haunted Horizons Official. And please also follow along with our sponsor, Foothill 7 TV. Without them, we would not be here, and we really appreciate them. So that's it for today, and we will see you on the other side.
See you on the other side.